So let me ask you something. Were you the good kid? You know, the one who never really caused any trouble? Well, today we're going to dig into what it actually means to be the easy child and why that compliment might carry a much, much heavier weight than you think.
You've heard this one before, right? It's kind of like the gold star of parenting praise. It paints this picture of a kid who was just so mature, so self-reliant, they just floated through childhood without making a single wave.
But here's a thought. What if being easy wasn't a personality trait at all? What if it was something else entirely? Psychology is starting to show us that there's a way more complex story behind this label, a story about adaptation, survival, and some pretty serious long-term consequences.
Okay, so let's dive right in and really unpack this. What is actually going on under the surface when we call a kid easy? Because as we're about to find out, it's not nearly as simple as it sounds.
See, the key word here, the one you've got to lock onto, is adaptation. This isn't about a kid who's just born quiet or agreeable. Nope, this is a learned survival skill. When a child picks up on stress in the home, they learn, almost instinctively, to make themselves smaller, to ask for less, all to keep things calm.
So what does this adaptation actually look like when you're a kid? Let's get into the childhood playbook, the set of rules and behaviors these children master from a very, very young age.
Easy children are often like little emotional barometers. They're hyper-aware of the feeling in a room. They can sense when their parents are stressed or overwhelmed, and they learn, lightning fast, to be cooperative, to be low maintenance, so they don't add to the pressure. And a huge piece of this is learning to just swallow their own big feelings, anger, sadness, fear, and convince themselves their problems just aren't a big deal.
And this just lays out the disconnect so perfectly. On the outside, adults saw maturity, but on the inside, the child was learning to just suppress every emotion. They saw a cooperative kid, but really that child was learning how to manage everyone else's feelings just to keep things from exploding. They praised self-reliance, but the lesson being burned into that child's mind was simple. Don't ever, ever be a burden.
Now here's the thing. These childhood patterns, they don't just disappear when you turn 18. Oh no, they evolve. So let's talk about the real cost of this so-called independence and how it messes with our adult lives.
Just take a second and think about it. Does any of this sound a little too familiar? Do you see echoes of that easy child in how you handle your relationships, your job, or just stress in general? It's like this simple but powerful little formula gets wired into your brain as a kid. Be helpful, be quiet, don't ask for much, and in return, you get praise and you get peace. So what does your brain conclude? My value, my worthiness of love, is completely tied to how little trouble I cause. And right there, that's the seed of chronic people-pleasing.
And here's the fallout as an adult. That childhood self-reliance, it morphs into this intense hyper-independence, where asking for help feels, well, it feels physically wrong. There's this constant nagging fear of letting people down. You become a master at making sure everyone else is okay, always putting your own needs on the back burner, which, surprise, surprise, often leaves you feeling completely and totally invisible.
I mean, when you boil it all down, this is the core belief you internalized. Needing help is a flaw. It's a sign of weakness. So instead of seeing that leaning on people is a healthy, normal part of human connection, you see it as a personal failure. And man, that can make it incredibly tough to build deep, trusting relationships.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. It really doesn't have to stay this way. Just acknowledging this pattern, just seeing it for what it is, that's the most powerful first step you can take. So let's talk about the journey from feeling invisible to getting some real clarity.
This might really hit home. This is the absolute heart of the easy child's loneliness, isn't it? You perfected the mask, you got so good at saying, I'm fine, and handling everything yourself that the people around you, even the people who love you most, they just believed you. They stopped checking in because you never gave them a reason to.
So this is the new goal. Let's reframe this. The point of life isn't to be a perfect problem-free human. I mean, who is that? Real health, real maturity is about building relationships where you feel safe enough to be a little messy, to actually have needs and to say them out loud without being terrified that everyone's going to leave you.
Just seeing this playbook for what it was, a survival strategy that you probably don't need anymore, is so incredibly empowering. This isn't about pointing fingers or blaming anyone, it's about understanding the why behind what you do. And that awareness, that's the key that unlocks the door to some real, lasting peace. So I'll just leave you with this one question. After a lifetime of making things easy for everybody else, of making yourself small to keep the peace, aren't you ready to finally take up some space? Are you ready to be seen, really seen, for all that you are,
needs, struggles, and the whole shebang,